Okay, I think we are live,
We in business.
Gareth.
We're in
Live.
business.
Everybody can see us. So welcome
I
anybody
put
who
back
is
on my clothes.
joining the stream now. This is the weekly live session Q&A and interview. This week it's gonna be with Gareth, the magic man from Ireland, now living in New Zealand, digital marketer and basically an owl
Pottery
fan.
enthusiast.
Yeah, owl enthusiast. um,
Big owl.
so yeah, Gareth, let's dig into first to get our juices flowing. Let's get into kind of a bit of your backstory. So we were
How
just
back? Like how far do we go back? Do we go back to the origin, or we just before
no,
I entered the scary world of marketing?
no, let's maybe not talk about kindergarten,
yeah,
but
yeah. I'll talk about the night I was conceived. No,
no, but
yeah.
we were just talking off camera that basically you come from a humble beginnings in Ireland, and now basically when we fast forward, you are here now living in New Zealand. You have this digital marketing agency. You do like landing pages, SEO. You are doing quite a bit of good revenue. I don't know specifics, so you can share, or you don't want to, you can't, or you don't have to share. And yeah, and you're living a good life. It seems like we've known each other, and you seem to be pretty content with the progress and what happened in the past couple of years or a year. So I guess the start would be, like how did it happen? Like how did it happen that you were there and now you are here? Like what
What
were the
changed?
like the key points you would say along
Well,
this journey?
I suppose, yeah. So just to give a bit of context, I left Ireland. I wanted to go traveling. There wasn't a whole lot going on back there for me, and I wanted to explore. Now, obviously, traveling is all good and well, but you need funds to fund the trip essentially. So I figured, what can I do? What can I do in order, I suppose, to have some disposable income, because my savings were never going to last forever. So I searched around, and what I seemed to be coming across was all these marketers who were making it big time. And Johnny Big Balls has a bloody Lambo, and I thought, man, I want to get the piece of that action. So I started learning. And at the start, I was clueless and blind, and I was too stubborn to even act, or not. I didn't even have. I was so naive. I didn't even know that I needed help. But I knew, like, I Google, and I used the shit out of that. So I searched around, tried a million different things. I had more losses than wins, and I think that's just like the general idea. You've got to fall a few times before something clicks. But I was very susceptible to shiny object syndrome. I would set something up, I would create it, I'd do all the fucking social media platforms, set all that, a few blog posts here and there, and then I get bored of it, or I'd see no results. That was the main thing, because you have the feedback loop. If you're putting in all this effort and you're just getting humble pies or eating shit the whole time, it's hard to motivate yourself to continue. So I would just say, okay, this doesn't work, chalked it down. This is crap. Let's go on to the next thing. And this happened, multiple times, maybe 5 times. I had a company where we would plan people's trips, but I realized backpackers are notoriously tight. I know this because I was one of them, and they didn't want to spend any money for you to plan these crazy, incredible trips. So, that wasn't work. Then I went into a natural health blog, and the hippie-ish world, they don't spend money either. And, I wasn't passionate. And there's just a few other different aspects, web design. But eventually, I get a couple of jobs. I get some web design projects, but it was just all referrals. It was like some friend of a friend, and I would do something, but nothing of any substance. It was really low level shit. And then just to kind of fast forward it a bit forward, and it brings us to maybe about this time last year, and I was just, I was tired of throwing shit at the wall and not hoping that it was going to stick. There was no system. There was no routine, I suppose, and there was no method to my madness at all. It was just literally hit and hope. But then I said to myself, look, I need to get some help. And this is where the tribal mastermind came along. And I seen Matt, as a lot of us, I came through his YouTube funnel. I was very keen. I'm always interested in self-development and whatnot. And Matt came along, and I suppose it resonated with me. He was a backpacker, if you will, not a backpacker, but a nomad, and he was European, and I suppose that's what the connection was made. Well, I said, look, there's no harm in jumping on a call. Why not? No harm. I didn't know in the back of the mind whether I was going to go ahead with it. I certainly couldn't afford it. But I took the leap of faith, and obviously Matt and Dion were good sales setters and closers, and it convinced me. And it's funny, I knew the tactics, I knew things, but it just felt right. So I just said, look, why not? So I paid for this course. I had 400 euros in my account, and I paid it in installments through Matt. And I was literally on the bones of my arse before that. I had nothing, but I thought to myself, look, I need to be bold. And struggle and uncomfortability are great motivators. Yeah. And I thought to myself, look, if I get this outside help, and I know where the direction is, it will come. And I trusted in the process. And it worked out. So basically, broke as a joke, signed up for the mastermind, and within the first month, I signed a $10,000 contract. And this to me was mind-boggling. It was the best. I think that was the pivotal moment, because I thought, fuck, if I can do it once, I can do this again. Okay. And look, it's not to say the mastermind in itself was the only thing, because I was trying for years, but it certainly hurt. It certainly helped. I felt like that I had someone in my corner. I also felt like, I had some expert counsel. And funnily enough, Conrad, I already said this probably before, but the email they got, that deal, that $10,000 deal, was from one of the ideas that I found from you on one of your calls. So thank you. You are the reason of my success.
Okay, that's good to hear. Okay, so before we focus just purely on the on the success part, I would be also interested to hear from you about, because you said that there was some, I think there were a few turning moments. You also said that it was not just the business, but you also, started figuring out the health aspect and energy aspect. So, you started giving up drinking and stuff like that. So, and then I think at some point, I don't know how many years ago, you moved to New Zealand. So what are some other kind of, you would say, things that also helped you to get this? Because I just want to paint the full picture for people. So when they are kind of thinking about where they are on their journey and, things they're struggling. So maybe you can also share what are some other things that kind of helped you get finally, kind of, let's say, success, or more, let's say, get somewhere with business that are not purely business related.
Gotcha. No, that's fair enough. Well, everything stems from the mindset. And at this point in time, people are like, oh, it's a cliche. Everybody goes on about it, but it really is. Like, what you do in one area of your life affects all areas. And that goes down to, who you're hanging out with. Even when I was back home, my family were somewhat supportive, but eventually they're like, okay, Garrett, you've been at this quite a while. Nothing really is hitting for you. Why don't you just get a job? And then same with friends. Sometimes friends were even the worst, because they don't because if they see you trying to do well, it's a mirror reflection to them that they're not, by definition. If you're trying, they're not, they would almost indirectly or intentionally, I don't know, but they would put you down, or they would, give you little sly digs and just tip away at you. And eventually, like having a finite amount of bandwidth, you have a finite amount of struggle bandwidth, and you can only put up with so much shit for a certain thing. And this is why people are very adamant about saying, go and do what you love. You hear about Steve Jobs and all that saying that. It's not because, it's a cliche. It's because you've only got this certain amount of energy that you can put up with shit. So you might as well do something that you enjoy or you like getting up. Otherwise, you can only get kicked in the balls enough times before you quit. So what was the main component for me? My stubbornness. I think all of us, if we're at this point in time, need a bit of stubbornness, and obviously a fantastic why. Why do we do this? Why is it important for us? For me, my why was, I wanted to help my family. If anything ever happened, I wanted to be in a position that, I could take care of them. Now, don't get me wrong, they could do it depending on the circumstances and, the government, but I wanted to be able to cater. I wanted to retire my parents, all that jazz.
And the stubbornness. So why do you think were you always stubborn?
Well, not too much. Well, my girlfriend will probably say otherwise, but just in this regard, like this was my thing. And I think that stemmed from when I spoke briefly, I never got a degree. I didn't even finish high school. So I always felt inadequate. I always felt like there was that I wasn't good enough. All my other family members had degrees, doctors, engineers, whatnot. And I felt like, I had something to prove. So I always wanted to better myself. And I thought, oh, look, if I can get content or consume it, the more the better. So I didn't, watch TV or programs or anything like that. My jam was self-improvement. So I realized, sorry.
No, I said okay.
Yeah, no, and then I just realized I needed to get away from the mess, because I needed to make sure and be very regimented about what went into my brain, and the filter, that lens really stopped anything that was negative or anything, even like anything on social medias or anything. Because if you get up and you go on social media straight off the bat and you see something that pisses you off, well, that's the fucking energy that you're going to be serving or putting out all day. So you can't expect, you're just like, you're starting the day going downhill. So I realized that it was very important of not just like what you were reading in terms of like business books or anything, but what you were putting in, or more importantly, what was making you feel the way. Because what you consuming, what you're thinking dictates how you feel. What you feel is going to dictate what you consume. So it's the same thing with a confidence feedback loop. You read negative shit, you're going to feel negative, and then you're going to be drawn to watch more of that negative stuff. So I learned early on that I really needed to be careful of what I was being exposed to, not just in my physical environment, but on the online world as well, because it's a mess out there, folks.
So you started doing this even before joining Tribe, like kind of.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So and then I realized, you need some outside help. Well, you can get to a point, A to B, but there's faster ways to doing that. And you can do it by yourself. And I felt like I would have got there eventually. I knew deep down that I would get there regardless. I would not give up until I did. But I realized, fuck, I need to shorten this bloody path, and outside help, outside perspective, people that are in that position, they've done well. If they've got there, they can help me to get there. And that's essentially, why I took the leap and got involved.
So two questions on my mind that I have. So one is like, because you said you haven't finished even high school. So do you think when you got into the whole like marketing space, and then now you have a business, but do you have any background as far as like skills and experience? Like what, obviously you had some skills and experience, but what kind, like what jobs did you do? Or did you, before, kind of going that direction, did you have any experience with like, anything related to internet, anything related to, I don't know, blogging or websites or marketing and the word of that, or you have completely different background?
No, I had no skill. I knew how to find Pornhub, and that was about it. I had zero. When I say I had zero, I was borderline retarded. Like I didn't have Facebook or any of that sort of stuff. And I was literally, and my girlfriend laughs at me now when she thinks how far I came. I could barely get a printer working. I could do the fundamentals. I wasn't like a pure simpleton, but I wasn't far off when it comes to So when I was back home, I did more like trade kind of work, hammer hand, and then I went to Australia and worked in the mines as a
Mm.
bloody miner. Um, on the surface and underground, like 1,000 meters down below. So this was a world away from what I was. So if anybody could do, like, if I could do it, and everybody says that kind of thing. Oh, like so much struggles. I literally was brain dead when it came to computers, and I just spent so much time on them, learning and shit until my eyes went cross-eyed. And yeah, I just picked up the skills. So no, I no skills in that regard. Just
Okay.
them up.
So, so what do you think, like, now that you're looking kind of back at it slightly? No, not obviously not like looking back 50 years, but do you think that that was in the end maybe helpful that you had those kind of like really, like experience working in mines and stuff, that then you were like more motivated to figure this out? Because I'm curious, like, one, like why suddenly you decided, okay, like stop with this kind of work and I will go into like remote, obviously maybe for the freedom aspect you said, to kind of travel and work. So that makes sense.
Mm.
Also that you actually, you figured it out quite easily. So it seems like, the lack of
Oh, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. Believe me, man. It wasn't easy.
no easily, no, maybe that was the wrong word, but let's say fast.
Okay. Okay. Fast.
So it didn't take you like 10 years to,
No, it didn't
to
do.
figure out the online stuff. So that's interesting.
Yeah, no, 100%. Did it help? Yes, of course. Just in the personal aspect, because I've that side. I'm good with my hands. I can build stuff. So as a personal thing, I think it was good. I'm glad. Did I realize? Yes. Did it help in terms of what I'm doing right now? Of course, because some of this was breaking work. We'd in the mines, you work 12 hours a day, no lunch breaks. You work in. Sometimes we'd work 5-6 weeks solid, not a day off. And you were paid like handsomely, but it was backbreaking work. And I was thinking, like, do I really want to do this for like forever? And I was like, no, fuck no. So I thought to myself, look, I need an outlet. But I feel like a lot of people, certainly people that stick around until you start reaping the rewards and seeing the dividends, they had, or well, I know for me, I can only speak for myself. I always had a burning desire to be successful or be somebody. So like I always had that. I always wanted that, and I think a lot of people generally do, but
Yeah.
a lot of people just don't take the action. They think, okay, there's an excuse. I'll wait till next year. I'll finish my college and then I'll crack on, or I'll start writing the book after when the kids are not in preschool or something. But
Yeah,
the key
exactly.
is people, again, to this struggle thing. You like the idea of being successful and having the cars and the girls and all this, but
Yeah.
you won't put in the effort, and that's
Like,
classic.
there's a beautiful saying that I like a metaphor, that people like the idea of having written a book, but they will never, they can't imagine going through the pains of actually writing the book.
Oh, 100%, 100%.
So so yeah, so okay, so that then we so then that I think that's gonna be the most interesting part, because I think I struggle with it too, and I think you had a similar path than that. Then you got into the marketing space, or like the idea of, okay, you could potentially earn from internet, and you tried a bunch of things, and it seems like you were always looking, like I used to do, I think, for like this magical shortcut, um that I kind of disconnects to the shiny object syndrome. But I guess I would like to hear your role, because I have also my perspective on the on the switch from, okay, just looking for the next new thing, shiny object syndrome, kind of this shortcut, like there's this magical way that I'm suddenly gonna be rich, to finally kind of deciding, okay, there is maybe nothing like that, and I just have to focus on one thing, or I just basically not look for shortcut, but get like the join the tribe, where people actually like share some serious kind of advice, like real advice. so so yeah, I guess the question is like, what what's your take on the your transition about from this moment when you were chasing the shiny objects to then
Mm.
kind of settling down one thing, and this whole kind of idea of shiny object syndrome, which I think is very common in the people that are in the marketing space, because yeah, young people, I think we have the tendency to do it more.
Mm, absolutely. New things are exciting. It's stimulating. People generally don't like the mundane, and when you lose that initial, that initial excitement, and you uncap that energy, that's why I would, whenever I had an idea, I wouldn't tell everybody or anything. I would just do it. Um, and it doesn't have to be a big groundbreaking idea, but sometimes what happens is if you uncap that energy, now it's out there and there's nothing that really motivates you. So I figured to myself, instead of bloody telling anyone, I'm just going to do it and then, and show. But I suppose, go back to your original question. What was the game changer? Well, to be honest, Conrad, I was just fed up, man. I was fed up of doing one thing and another, and this the startup process. I was like, fuck, if I do another thing, I'm going to have to go through, that couple of months of getting set up, building a website, doing all that crap. And I was just like, no, next thing I do, I'm going to stick at it. And that was it. And honestly, that is probably the biggest thing. If I could allocate one of top three, it was just the consistency. It was just staying at one thing. And like, the compounding effect, the seeds I sow, start to show dividends right now. So like the results I'm seeing now, they didn't come from even like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago when I opened up that conversation with the client. It happened months and months, years ago even. But yeah, the consistency was such a massive thing, because if you've got your focus, say your focus is like this, and your energy is on loads of different things, you're dissipating your energy around. So like if you're going this way, this way, this way, and this way, you can only move that much at a time. Whereas if you drop a flag and say, okay, I want to go here, and focus that energy, now you're not going all these different routes, you're going in one straight line. So you can get to that point a lot more efficiently, effectively, faster. So that was the main thing, was me just tunnel vision. Okay, this is it. Got proof of concept, got a deal, and let's try to replicate it. And believe me, I went off course quite often. At times you do, and you just get feedback and you iterate and realize, okay, that worked, that doesn't. But the focus was massive, absolutely massive. And yeah, I think that was a massive game changer for me. And just focus on what works, find out what works. And I know this is preached in the mastermind, but it was, the E-Myth revisited is like, find out what works and just replicate it, and just don't deviate too much from it. Or at least if you're deviating, stick to what you know and then do a bit of testing, 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. It was focus and consistency. And just and waiting for something to work.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I think it's also because one thing I also think we have, there are certain, I think, personality and like tendency types that are like personality and that there are other things in us than just our personality, that some people have this more tendency to like be good at, for example, like starting things, like going from zero to something, but then they have trouble seeing things to the finish line. And I think we might be, I struggle with that too, that we are kind of more prone to just kind of getting that the kind of rush into us, like, hey, we made massive progress. But then I think the problem comes that we hit this point where the novelty wears off, and then you kind of have to start kind of grinding, and this is where a lot of people give up. So if you basically just through pushing through that, you basically outlast people in a way. Like I think a lot of this is just consistency, but the consistency just basically outlasts people. Like, just people, the same goes, like, I do podcasting. I think the stats are that like 90% of podcasts or something, that they don't go past 10 episodes or something. Like, it's
free.
because you don't get the feedback, as you said. If you don't get the immediate feedback, you get easily discouraged. But before we go too much off track here, one big thing when coming back to the tribal mastermind, I was thinking that now that you look at it, what do you think were the most important kind of help that you got from tribal mastermind? What was the most important help, as far as was it more about the just having other people's kind of point of view? Was it more about the purely kind of advice? Or was it more about accountability? Was it more about like training in some particular specific thing that you were bad at, like sales or anything like that? Like, do you think you can kind of pinpoint like what were the most like helpful for you? Because I think it's maybe slightly different for everybody, but I'm
Mm.
curious, like what were the biggest kind of help elements for you?
Yeah, yeah, sure, Conrad. So there's a couple of different things. One of them I found was, so everybody would have gone through this. Everybody feels at some point in time the classic imposter syndrome. I was doing things. I was thinking like, is this really for me? You always have that negative self-talk and thinking like, look, am I even good at this? Can I do this? And being part of the group was just even being involved in it. It was, and you're being exposed to other people, and you see that they're going through some struggles, and then you realize, okay, you know what, I'm not the only one doing this. And then even on the opposite side of things, you see people like ringing the bell or saying their successes, and you're thinking, shit, if he can do it, I can do it. Or she does it, like, why can't I do it? So that was a motivation as well. Just being involved in it. And then as I mentioned before, that competence feedback loop. So I would get involved and I think to myself, okay, now I'm exposed to this knowledge, I'm learning this sort of stuff, and now I feel a bit more confident when I'm trying to project or say or convince someone to to buy my shit. That was one aspect. Then of course the calls, Matt's calls are invaluable. You have one or two questions, and sometimes that's what it is. It's just one or two questions are stopping you from turning the corner. So that was invaluable. Obviously, even the other pre-calls or the recorded calls that I went through. And then like Jonas's call. Jonas is he's been brilliant, man. And Jonas, the beauty of it, because there's so many different perspectives. And Jonas has this, very, very unapologetic. You mightn't want to hear it, but you certainly need to hear it. So that was, to me, was like, Jesus, what? It was a reality check. Where Matt is, very informative, will go bend over backwards to help you and give it up. But he's not as harsh. Or if he is harsh on you, he'll apologize after and he'll do a joke, whereas Jonas really gives you a kick in the arse and doesn't care whether you liked it or not. So it was having the mentors there to to guide and to just to fucking have your back and stuff. So that was that one of the things. Then the funnels, of course, the technical aspects. I never knew about LinkedIn automation, and that got me some coin at one point, and the email as well, and that sort of stuff. So it was the practical side. It was just a whole range, to be quite honest.
Okay. And because, for example, for me, there were some things that came much easier when it comes to, let's say, building some kind of a business. And there were some things that I've struggled much more. For example, I thought that I would be pretty good at sales, but it took me, like at least 6 months, if not more, of just struggling to really get it. Like it was not easy. Like I thought I would be good because I'm not really good with people and all of that, but it seems
I
like it's
beg
not.
to differ, Conrad. I think you're fantastic.
but it didn't work. So I'm curious, like, did you have any like of the biggest like kind of bottlenecks in a way, like obstacles that you faced even in the past, this one year on this kind of let's say struggle journey of trying to create something out of nothing? So something, getting a business started and then growing it and then having employees and having more revenue and serving more clients. Like what do you think were your like biggest kind of obstacles that you faced and then you you managed to overcome?
Yeah. Okay. So before I got into like the marketing, the only really skill that I thought I would have had was, a bit of. I thought I'd be good at sales because I'm good with people. I'm somewhat extroverted, and people say, the
And
Irish gift
Irish.
of the gab. People, my friends used to say that I talk the knickers off of your granny if I got a half a chance. But I thought, I'm good at that sort of stuff, and I suppose to a certain degree I am. But I was terrible at systems and stuff like that. Just anything with numbers or the more analytical side of things, I'm horrendous. I don't really have that much structure, although I'm getting better in terms of my days and stuff like that. But in terms of like the technical things, reading the data, finding out how to iterate and constantly A/B testing and all that, that sort of stuff was like above the shoulders acidic to me. So I definitely never fucking particularly was keen on that, and it was my detriment because you need to know your numbers. You don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. Okay, and I like even today, you asked me about my revenue, and I was told the last day of the call as well. You should know this. I don't know I don't know. I know the ballpark, and I'll share them if you want, but no problem. But I don't know the exact things and cash flow, and I know that's a fucking issue. That realistically, I ain't gonna bloody crack a milli with without me knowing exactly these numbers. So yeah, that was a big struggle for me. Being bold and taking the leap was another struggle for me. Like sometimes they say, the answers to all the questions or what you want is in the cave you fear to enter. And I think that was massively because, public speaking, things like that was the epitome of it would scare the shit on me. The thought of it would make my stomach crawl and I would physically have a reaction of thought of it. So I said, fuck, I need to do this. If I can challenge this, if I can tackle this sort of stuff, I can do anything. So a short story, even longer, I joined Toastmasters and learned how to, to speak in public and, not all there, but, certainly get better. So I felt, if I can do that, everything else was secondary. Then the next aspect was, to leave my home and get a lease with my office. And I didn't want to do that. And people fear the unknown. We're creatures of habit. So anything that changes that, we feel vulnerable, we feel exposed. And that's why we don't do it. Same reason when people don't follow through in their business plan, because they're afraid of the feedback. They're afraid to do it because they don't want to experience what would perceived as a failure. Because deep down, a lot of people, whether it's minute or a lot, we feel somewhat of a failure in some aspect of our life. So that's why we're afraid to make bold decisions. So that going out and get my own office was a big a fear, but I went and did it. And again, that was another game changer for me because now I'm not some fucking random dude with an owl in the background talking to you from my house. I was, I had an office and I had a boardroom, and people thought I was swanky. People thought I had an army. Even to this day, people think that there's a behind my door there was a whole fucking team of little minions running around working doing shit, but it was me at the start. There was nothing in an 11 square meter room. It was like a bloody closet. I felt like Harry Potter half the time, but so I still did it, but that was a game changer for me. So yeah, now it's just if you bring it to the present point, biggest issue is just finding staff. We've since moved into a bigger office.
So how
5
big? So how
which
big is your business now? So can you give like a estimate for people, like one employees, into like just roughly the ballpark of revenue? Because I wanted to get into a certain topic, so just wanted people to get the picture.
Okay, cool. No worries. So right now, we have 3 full-time, not me. We got me and 3 other full-time, and then we've got some contracts and we've got some part-time people. And we're looking to hire probably maybe 1, maybe even 2. In terms of revenue this month, we've cracked about 44,000 in sales. Our
Okay.
office space is about 70 meters, 70 square meters. And then we've got, our that's the actual office floor. And then we've got boardrooms, meeting rooms, common areas, that sort of stuff.
Okay, because yeah, what I wanted to talk about, because I think you also have a great thoughts on that, is that a lot of people now you see, especially in the online business world, whatever that is, but it's kind of very broad. But it's all about the six figures, seven figures, like God knows what. Everyone's talking about like how to get from 6 to 7, from 5 to 6, whatever. And then you have this like startups, and you think like, oh, okay, you need this, the only business is this like huge, like tech startup that's gonna bring you millions. But I think we both see that if that's your spiel, that you really want to kind of be a billionaire, then maybe you will always be unsatisfied. But the truth is that a business starts way before that. Like even now that you have 3 employees and you're making this much, like 40K or 50K or even 20,000. It's still like once you can figure out like what actually you are aiming for, it might be that it's not much more that you need as far as just the let's say the money wise, and then it's more about freeing your time up. But at least I realized that I don't really need 7 figures. Like what's that gonna I mean, I would have to sacrifice so much in my life to get there, and maybe at some point I will get there, but if it's not like a driving force for me. And I think people who are kind of outside this world, and they like looking to step in, they see all of this like kind of talk about 6, 7, 5, whatever figures, and then they kind of get lost in this like crazy ass numbers, where it's actually that you can have a real solid business and it can bring you most of what you're looking for. It doesn't have to be some exciting startup, and it doesn't have to bring 100,000 a month. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's each to their own. Don't, like I would say, like some people get, deemed, a monetary revenue value as, a success, as if they're binary. You can't have one without the other. But it really depends on what's success in your eyes, So, we spoke about this before. It's all good and well cracking 10 grand or 20 grand. But if you're working 90 hours a week, your fucking girlfriend hates you, you can't spend time with your kids, you've got zero life. Like, is it worth it? Like, would you call that success? No, I wouldn't, unless you like it. If you're like an Elon Musk and you thrive over that sort of environment, all good and well. But don't focus on the revenue. And I know someone might say, don't cut him off, don't be telling about the revenue. But it's funny, when I stopped focusing on the revenue, the deals started coming in, like flowing in. It's crazy and like counterproductive, but it is. It's like the law of opposing forces. The more I wanted and focused on, okay, I need to get clients, the harder it was to get them. And once I kind of fell back from it, literally 2 deals on the Monday morning. So I'm not saying don't focus on that. Of course you need to focus, but more focus on doing your job well, and then the money will come. I'm not saying like, oh, provide the best website. Well, although that is true, because you can have your funnel systems, your traffics, you can ask for referrals, but in the end of the day, people won't refer you because you want them. They refer you because they believe in you. You believe in the product. So fundamentally, you need to deliver, focus more on what you're delivering, and get that right. And then everything else is easy. If you are legitimately boiling it down to what's important, because funnels, platforms, they all change, but in the root down to the core, people, their buying decisions, why they buy, solving problem is at the core, never going to change. So focus on that more so, and then you can tune in. People are worried about what funnel doesn't work. Maybe your offer, maybe what your service offering is, and what your deliverables are not that good, and maybe it's a harsh reality, but you need to really look inside and see if this is the case. Take heed of the reviews you're getting. Ask your current clients why you stay with you. Ask the clients that don't stay with you, why did they leave, and learn from that sort of stuff. But yeah, I wouldn't revenue is good, and it's a tool, to allow you to do different things, to focus on building your business, but focus on building the business. The revenue will come. That's what I would say in that regard. And I feel like it's just more enjoyable, if you're not just constantly concentrate on decibels, you're just
Yeah.
more, you're worried about, how can I keep my employees happy? How can I improve my system with my clients? How can I check in with them? How can I systemize it? How like that? That's what makes the biggest difference. And it's funny because as long as you're doing everything right and you are concentrating on the money making tasks and building up that deal flow in different point of contacts, warm, post, first call, second call, you're going to have deals coming in.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I think I more and more believe in this concept that goals are for losers, systems are the way to go. That, goal, it's cool that you set up like I want to get there, but in the end, anything that you accomplish is a result of small actions you do every day. Like there's no other way around that. Like even if your goal is I want to lose 10 kilograms, the goal is kind of worthless in a way because you still, the key is that to have a system, and the system is kind of just both diet and exercise and also sleep, I would say. So these are free, and if you neglect any one of them, it becomes much harder. And it's not about doing anything one day, like one day I'm just not gonna eat and suddenly you're gonna lose it. It's like you just have to, over time, you just have to do the right things, and they don't have to be perfect, but I think it's in my mind, like a lot of it, and in business is kind of the same. It's just, yeah, like consistent, high quality, not perfection, but like high quality, just getting up. But I don't want to give my advice, so because it's more about yours. So that's a question to you. Like, if
It's
you were
valuable.
if you were to go on, I'm thinking two ideas and two questions. So one is, if you were to go back, like kind of couple years, what would you maybe tell yourself to do slightly differently, or how would you go about things, or what would you tell to somebody who is like this couple years where you were a couple years ago, so he just kind of started dabbling in this whole kind of marketing space? Like, what would you tell them to do? And maybe it would be the same thing you did, or maybe it would be slightly different, like some upgraded version that now that you have more like wisdom.
Yeah. So what would I tell a younger self? My younger self, I would say,
But like just couple, I'm not saying like when you're 5 years old, but
no,
just
of course, I'm only getting like
like
no.
2 years ago, let's say, when you were in 2 years ago.
I would tell my younger self to shag Cindy from high school because I missed out. Now I know I wouldn't. Well, I would tell him that. But I would say to myself, I would say, yeah, I would not flip flop and not just jump from different things. And don't get caught up in trivial, stupid things. I'm a very emotional person. And get caught up in things. So I was getting caught up in world affairs that, realistically, I can't change. Well, I can, but I need to fucking sort my own shit. Like Jordan Peterson says, make your bed before you go around telling people how to clean up their house. But realistically, I was getting so invested in, politics. And we seen this last year with all this polarization with Trump and bloody Biden. Everybody was invested. It was like a bloody reality TV show. But I was like that in our regard. And you got to be careful of that shit because, Trump is gone now, but there'll be someone else to come in. It was the Kardashians or whatever it is. People just get transfixed. Now it's Corona, So again, you've only finite resources with your energy. So don't get caught up in it and make sure you're not dissipating. You're focusing on something that's positive. So yeah, don't get caught up on, the inhumane, the shit, crazy shit that this world kind of bombards you with on a daily basis, unless you can change it, and that's your prerogative, do it. But otherwise, just don't just do your own thing. That's what I would say to me as well, because I spend a lot of time spunking time and wasting money and energy and stuff like that just on things that were out of my reach. What else would I would have done? I would have asked for help. faster, I would have got involved with someone, and not just masterminds. Because if you're listening to this, you're in a mastermind, but don't be afraid to network and try to get people that are in a position that you want to be in. Or it doesn't even have to be like way ahead. It's just someone that's a couple of steps ahead of you, and just ask them. And obviously you don't want to ask and ask and ask, because then you become a burden and no one's going to help there. So try to see how you can meet, and not like in a manipulative way, in the sense of like, oh, I'm gonna here's some resources on an fucking blog post that he doesn't care about. Being genuine and sincere, and that's what I did as well. And I got some pretty solid mentor or figure, people that I can ask. And not just one thing, in life in general, like, just in terms of like mindset, or if of how to just deal with financial sort of investing, if you're into that, cryptos, if you're into that, like, have a different person that you can kind of go to, because it will help. It will shortcut the process, just having someone there. Because I was back in the day, man, I was just too stubborn. I thought like asking something would mean that I don't know, and if I didn't know, it means that I'm stupid. This was like at a like subliminal fucking, Oprah deep fucking level, But yeah,
But
I would do that.
that's that's fairly common. At least I've been reading Jung, and he was just basically
Oh,
saying that the reason people don't have this kind of idols anymore, like men do not have idols, is because we secretly like just don't have. Well, we don't allow ourselves, because we have like we are insecure in ourselves in a way. So if we were to say, hey, it's an idol, it means that in part of us is like, okay, this is someone I inspire, he's better in some areas than me. So then you have to like acknowledge that you are not perfect now, and there is some bigger ideal. It's not that you just have to be angry at yourself, but just some kind of inspiration to just shoot for something, or at least that general direction.
Mm.
So it's interesting to hear from you about that.
Yeah, well, exactly. Young is unbelievable, really, deep kind of thinker, and it is true, because we like what we see in others is a reflection of what we see in ourselves. When you again, say, oh, that guy's stubborn, or that guy is just his head's in the clouds. You see that and notice that. More importantly, you can acknowledge things, but if you notice and that is brought to your attention, and it's almost like to a point that you have to verbalize it or internalize it, it's because you see it in yourself. And it's the same way, the opposite. If you see this guy that's up in this perceived pedestal, you don't want to go and extend your arm or ask for it, because that there's the bridge and you're not there. Same way, with I think it was someone in the tribe mastermind said about these like affirmations. But affirmations don't really work, because you're saying these things and you're saying them because you are not them. So you're almost lying to yourself, and like it's almost counterproductive. So it's the same way. I think that but you gotta break through that barrier. In terms of you just gotta swallow your ego, swallow your pride, and just ask for help. And a lot of people are happy to help, because it does wonders for their ego, because they feel like they're perceived in a high status state. So yeah,
Okay.
I would definitely help.
And how would you, because I think it's also very easy, at least I've noticed that a lot, that people, okay, they think about this advice, or they think about following in someone's footsteps, but then a lot of time I think people choose also, if they don't choose, like one part is they don't choose, but then there is a bigger part where they choose, but they choose the kind of the wrong people. Like they choose some like YouTuber that talks about some guru or whatever, that talks about a lot of stuff, but in the end it's just a lot of talk but not much substance. And it's just kind of trying to get you sold and stuff. And in the end it's more about like, yeah, I will teach you about that, but I haven't even done it myself, but I would teach you about that. And it's just kind of this weird and I've seen it more and more, that like people, even when they choose, they kind of choose the wrong. So I'm curious, like, how did you go about choosing the right people? Like, did you have some secret sauce, or did you go through like a lot of trial and error, and you learned like what to look at, like what to look for in people that say, okay, these are bad signs, these are good signs? Like, how did you go about choosing, to go for this tribal mastermind or go for this mentor, or instead of
Yeah.
some other ones?
Well, yeah. Well, like, yeah, you got to be careful, but you just use common sense. If someone is a YouTube, they've got a great YouTube channel and they're telling you how to like flog watches or something like that, and they've got loads of subscribers or views and stuff, but they're just vanity metrics. Like, what is that? What are you going to learn? Okay, maybe learn how to get to that point, but you want to learn something of substance. Like how to run a business, because that goes and comes in a day. But how is he like selling his watches? What's his processes for selling his watches? Like, how is he upselling? How is he increasing the lifetime value for his clients? Things like that. In my situation, how I chose or approached or anything, it was just how I experienced stuff. On paper can lie. You could have someone saying he's making $10 million a day. But man, he is a horrible person to be around, and he's just going to treat you like dog shit. So do you want to be around him? No. Maybe if you think it outweighs it. But how I chose was just how I felt, or how I resonated with them, whether, it was man through his videos, or if it was a bloke that I met at a networking event, and I just felt like a good energy, because your gut will tell you, and it hasn't really served me wrong. And then I just like open that conversation. Sometimes I'm straight with them. So look, man, I love what you're doing here with these, cryptocurrencies. I would love to love more. Is this something like, would you be willing to, sit down for lunch and I'll shout you lunch? And people are like, yeah. And what's the worst they could say? No. And then other ways, in terms of investing, is just being around them. I don't, you're not trying to ask them for anything. You just like want to hang out with them like your friends, and then you become friends, and then you just learn, and they're happy that you were showing an interest, and it's organic. You don't have to bloody send them chocolates and bloody suck them off. You know what I mean? But you just have to be real people. People like recognize real. Realize. That's a Tupac saying, if anyone doesn't know. So yeah, you got to realize.
Nice.
Yeah,
I didn't know. I'm a fan of Tupac. I didn't even know this quote.
Yeah, man. It's a weird.
The rose that grew from the concrete.
100%. Brenda's got a baby.
So Gareth, okay. So one of the, because we are closing in on an hour in like 80 minutes. So one of the things I wanted to end with is maybe, we were talking a lot about the past and a bit about the present. So now let's talk about the future, maybe, because that's what we are good at, I think. So like, what's your, like, what are you now shooting for? Like, what are some of your big, maybe not goals, but goals as well, So you always have goals, even though I said they are useless, but you still have them. So what are some things you are now shooting for, like, or where are you focusing your energy? Maybe that's a good question too. Like, what part of your life and what part of your business, what are you trying to mostly kind of improve? Is it more like money? Is it more like just more stability, more quality, maybe something else, so
So I feel like goals have their place, but I agree with you as well that people just get caught up in them too much. So like, for instance, like, it's important for you to go and drop a flag, to have a direction. Otherwise, it's like getting in a boat and not setting out, where you're going to go. You'll fucking crash around the dock. You won't get anywhere, whatever. So it is a part, you should have a strategic purpose. It's like a direction, but results are created in the granular, in the day-to-day activities, not in the goals, like by just writing down goals and having it there. You need to systemize it. You do this by creating habits, so it makes it easy. So it's not laborious, or it's out of thing. It just becomes a habit. You've allocated a certain time for it. Just makes it easy. So that is my thoughts on that, on that point. In terms of where I want to go, and this is really important, because the past is the past. Can't really do shit. Present is good. Live it, hippie. Present, whatever you want to say. But the future is like, where it's at, baby. Like, the future is, you got to pay attention. And if you want to create your future, you need to do the shit in the now to get there. Okay. So what I want to do, there's a few different aspects. I want to really get this my agency to a point where it's just a fine-tuned machine. Same thing with like the Ray Kroc McDonald's kind of thing. I want to create my business as if I was selling the business. The business itself was the business, the product. And that just means that, I get it to the point where, you've got the sales team, the marketing team, the deliverables, the web designers, all that kind of things. And they don't need me in there. I can piss off the, Philippines and go diving in Boracay or Palawang. And, the ship doesn't sink because right now, I'm very much needed in there. I'm not in it like it fucking, I'm great way. It's the fact because I'm the point of contact. So I want to get it to the point, get the agency like that. And then I would like to replicate it. If it's working and it's proven, I would like to replicate it and either going into different cities or going to different cities and acquisition, like buying business. So buy a company that has an existing clientele base, and that's the fastest way to grow is just buy business. You can accumulate 1 million fucking customers, or you can accumulate 10 clients a month, and then you lose 1 or 2 and then you gain 12. But whereas if you buy a business, you can buy 100 clients, and then I will create almost like franchising the agency essentially, and go big and go bold that way. And then I also like to, I like the idea of creating innovation technologies. And again, right now, shiny object syndrome, that's there for me, and it's lurking and constantly saying, flashing their twists and saying, look, why don't you come over here and create this thing? And believe me, it's tempting. I want to go over and squeeze them boobies, but this is metaphorically speaking. Well, I can't get me too'd over here, but you know what I mean? I gotta, I would like to explore that at some point in time. But right now, again, I just need to focus on what I have, what's working, what's proof the concept is working, is proven. And and then we can expand out. But just to grow the agency to a point, don't even care about the monetary. I just want to become the best in New Zealand. That's the idea.
So what innovations were you talking about? What are you thinking as far as innovation?
I know I like the graphic side of things. I love the new web flows and new and exciting technology. We're building most of our websites now on that, and I feel like there's an area to explore in that in terms of like almost like plugin type things. I like code extensions essentially for that sort of stuff, which they're not. There's not a whole lot of people doing it right now. There's no one doing it really. So that's that side of things. I want to be. I want in a fundamental. Obviously, I want riches and all the shit that allows me to do this. But deep down, I want to create a company with a good culture, and I want to be the next Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yeah, you look
joking,
a bit
but
like
not joking, but yes, joking.
You guys look a little bit alike.
Oh yeah, well, I'm in Gareth Vaynerchuk and he's Gary Vee. Yeah.
Okay, so you want to stick with the agency word, basically. You don't have any plans of like moving to some different type of business, products or whatever else, software, anything like that. Just agency. Stick with agency for foreseeable future. Try to replicate.
Yeah, well, exactly. Like if it's working and I've been enjoying it. I enjoy speaking with people, and I feel like I do it well right now. So I think if it's not broken, don't fix it. But my real passion lies in figure skating.
In the what?
Figure skating. The beautiful art of latex and lycra and on ice. No, I don't. I can't skate for shit. It's a joke. Yeah, no, I think I'm going to stay in my lane for now because, why not?
Okay. Okay, so I think we can slowly wrap up. Do you have, Gareth, any last thoughts that we haven't talked about? I mean, we have a bit more time, so if you want to riff on something,
I don't really have it in mind. Just FYI, I was at a party before I came to this. I left the party, and now I'm going back. But FYI, you're like, oh, this motherfucker's drink driving. I'm off the booze, baby. And that's another thing I did. You gotta honestly, one of the things was stopping me from, really optimizing and excelling was because when I drink, and God knows I like to drink, I'm an Irishman, and I I would drink, and then Sunday's out of the questions. Monday was not really that good, and Tuesday, and I only started picking up the pieces on Wednesday, and that was a problem. You know what I mean? So I said to myself, look, this year I'm just going to stop drinking, and it's been 4 months, and like things have really started working well. Even down to the point that if you're waking up hungover and you've got the fear, and you feel like shit, and you feel like the world is after you, and you want to hide in your bed and get fat and have sex with you, it wasn't possible. Um, that's not good. That's not productive. You're not in a good headspace. And I feel like what you put out, you get back in. So once I cut that off, I think that was one of my successes. But realistically, what I would say to new members and my advice to them is just, and you've heard it before. Look, I ain't fucking reinventing the wheel here, but it's just to stay consistent, to focus on one area and just stay at it. It's like you're trying to cut a tree down with an oak tree with an axe. You swing once, nothing happens. You swing again, trivial, no marks. But eventually, it will go. It will come down. And realistically, you don't know that your big win or that next level that you're going to hit, how far around the corner. So you just need to persist and continue, and don't lose faith. It will come, matter of time. It's just I suppose down to the fact of how long, but you can obviously shorten that if you do the right things. Constantly learn, give up on the fucking as much social media or any of that shit, and just keeps it consistent was a big thing. And to me, man, like getting an office was another thing for me, because you've now occupied, and you walk around as an actual, feeling like an actual businessman or a business person, and people view you. And when you walk around feeling like, it's almost like that fake it till you make it, but it's like kind of real. It's the same principle. So yeah, don't be afraid to be, take leaps of faith, and just keep knocking on the door, and eventually it's going to swing, and there's going to be like some boobies and $1 million there. Well, hopefully. So yeah, that's about it. I hope everybody could understand me, first of all, because apparently I sometimes when I get going, I don't come up for breath for about 3 hours.
No, that was good. I think I understood you, and I think others understood you as well. So good advice, Gareth, and I agree. I agree. I think once you can go through the consistency, then once you stick something long enough, then you can kind of experiment and maybe pivot and try kind of pivoting in the things that you are maybe better at. But I think until a certain point, you're gonna suck at most things. At least in business, like there's so many skills to learn. I mean, it's like Matt said, it's probably the best self-development course is to just try to start a business. I mean, because it faces you with reality. I think that's the good one with business. It's that you can't escape. You can be like woo in a way, like, yeah, I'm learning all of this and I'm smarter, but because in business you have this kind of feedback where it's like, okay, are you actually, is the business real? Are you getting money? Are you selling something? Are the clients happy, that you delivered them something? So is there value in what you do? So it's kind of like more tangible, when you once you convert it. And so you can't, I think, escape this kind of like woo stuff. Just, hey, I'm getting enlightened day by day, but in the end,
the market will tell you, it's unapologetic. It will kick you in the sack. It will tell you when you're wrong, and that's what you need, because sometimes if you're wrapped up in a little cocoon, you're not getting any of that. You're not getting any of that feedback, and that's the same reason why rich people, when they try to go out, they generally don't do as well as people that have struggled and got there, fighting tooth and nail. But no, I think it was good. Thank you very much, Conrad, aka the Tom Cruise of marketing. Why don't you put down your hair and give us an old whiff?
No, I have it.
You have it in the bun.
Yeah. I'm a bunny rabbit now. So Tom Cruise. I hope I'm not. I'm not. What's the Scientology? I'm
Yeah.
Scientology is not gonna wrap its wrap its tails around my neck.
100%. You never know. I know. No
Oh,
worries.
okay. So
All right,
Gareth,
guys.
yes, thanks so much, Gareth, for coming on. And yeah, it was wonderful talking. Great stories, great advice, great reflections. Hopefully, people also got something out of it. And yeah, let's finish it off and let you go back to your party.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. My 0% party. Yeah. No worries. Cool.
Okay, and
All right,
broadcast.
mate.